Okay, so we're still on the conversation about the FR funds, and today we're going to look at another reason why a woman should have an FR fund, and that is because she might want to leave her job because of mental health concerns. So the idea here is not that you are crazy per se, but it's no secret, at least in Nigeria, here in Nigeria anyway, that there's some work environments that have lots of well, I say toxic habits. Like for those of you who have worked in the banking space, I had a cousin who used to work with one of the well, at the time, newer banks in Nigeria. Speaking about 10 years ago. So right now, the bank is seen as maybe one of the more legacy banks. But she worked in a bank where it was not uncommon for supervisors, both male and female, to scream at members of staff, especially during marketing conversations. And one boss, surprisingly, one of the female bosses, even insinuated that if certain ladies were able to get huge targets in marketing, then how come the other ladies didn't do what it takes, in quotes, to get those targets as well? Even though at the time, well, of course, we don't really have any way of verifying these things, but rumors fly around. So, by the time in the department, because I met several other people who worked in the bank, it was kind of like an open secret or assumed that certain people did certain unethical things to close all those million naira accounts. And I also had another cousin who went through the same thing, but she was more of in the insurance space. So yeah, the work environment where superiors shout, what else? Shout, verbally abusive, and things like that. So it's a good idea for a woman, not just a woman anyway, but anyone for that matter, to have an FO fund so that you can leave a job that is just doing your head in. Because we spend, I think research shows that we spend, is it a third of our working life, or is it two-thirds? Either a third or two-thirds, I can't remember, of our working life in the office and with colleagues. So you really should not be spending all that time in a place where it's just mental torture every time you clock in or every time you're working on an important assignment. So, how do you go about getting the FR fund in this case? Okay, well, in this case, it's not necessarily going to be an FR fund per se, because one of the ways of finding the security that you're going to need in this situation, looking at things from a sales perspective, is to increase your prospecting. Because in traditional sales theory, whenever you have a job to do, okay, let's tie it back to those of us in the wedding and the event space. So you're a wedding planner, you're a photographer, you're a videographer. So in traditional sales space, if you're low on your numbers, you're beginning to feel the heat, you're beginning to feel the pressure, you actually ought to go out and start prospecting, because with the more prospecting you do, with the more people that you're talking to, the more opportunities you get to close your sale and then to grow your income. And of course, with the increased income comes a certain measure of stability. Now, what is prospecting? If you're a first time listener, prospecting is the art. Some people think it's a science, but I consider it more of an art. It's the art of going around, looking over the internet, or looking in person, looking around your community or whatever, and trying to figure out who should I be talking to that might need my product or my service. So that's the primary question of prospecting. Who should I be talking to? Then qualification is another skill that I've spoken about lots of times in the podcast. And the goal behind qualification is to find out that, okay, of all these people that I've spoken to who could possibly need my product or my service, who exactly has a want or a need that I can fulfill at the right price? What else? And we have the same sorts of expectations around a whole bunch of other stuff. So those are really important skills to have in a traditional sales mindset. So now, if you're looking to give yourself much more job security, these skills apply as well. So prospecting. Luckily for us, times are different in this day and age. We have LinkedIn, and so there are opportunities for us to do a lot of research on the different companies that are out there, so that we can move away from the current job that we have. So prospecting in this case, I would say, would involve a lot of research work, looking at other companies, looking at profiles, websites, trying to source people out so that eventually you can start having conversations with people in the organization. And then that's where the next step comes in. So first is prospecting, and then the next step is the need or value analysis. So you're trying to have conversations with people either in person or over on the internet to try and figure out what kind of organization is this, what do they value, what are their goals, where are they heading towards, and then you see how that rhymes or how that conflicts with your own goals and your own value orientation. So this is going to be more of a conversation. This stage is going to be much more of a conversation thing after you've done your research. So that's sending messages to people on LinkedIn or speaking to people who you know. And then the next stage would be presentation, and this is the point at where you try and align value because you figured out what the value of the organization is. And so this is the point where in the interview process or in your networking that you're going to do to try and look for this new job, where you try to show that your needs and the organization's goals are aligned, and so because of that you are going to be a suitable match to work in this kind of environment. Now I'm going to look at the question of networking versus applying by CV. Now there was a time in Nigeria anyway when it was possible for you to get jobs by sending in your CVs. But the thing is, the what's that word? Demographics. The demographics. Sorry, forgive me. Demographics have shifted. There are a lot more young people in the workforce these days. And the thing is, you throw a stone into the marketplace and you're definitely going to hit somebody who has 2 master's degrees. So at the time when I was in school, I think the normal thing kind of was like everybody had their undergrad degree and you had 1 advanced degree, a master's. But now it's typical for people to have 2 or 3 advanced degrees. So it's really tough out there. So I'm one of those people who think, and maybe you shouldn't be listening to me because I haven't been in the traditional work environment for a very long time, because after my undergraduate, I practiced law for 2 years and then went for my master's degree, and then from there I went into the civil service, and since then I have been for the next decade after that I've been self-employed pretty much. So maybe you shouldn't be listening to me when it comes to stuff like this. But I really think networking is the way to go, because you throw your CV into the ring, and I mean, who even knows how these things work anymore? You send in the CVs, who knows how these things are sifted through and sorted. So I think you're better off trying to do a much more man no man, or woman no woman in this case, approach, and try to network. And the good news is, if you get good at this kind of stuff, eventually you stop looking for jobs and then people start looking for you. Now, some of you might think that this is motivational bullcrap, but it's not, because it's something that I have seen lived out in my own experience. Because for those of you who are long-time listeners of the podcast, you'll remember the shows where I've spoken about how my mom had to bring us up in Lagos, her and 5 kids alone, and eventually, she's able to do her thing with thought leadership and able to rise up in the ranks in the public relations space in Nigeria. And after a while, she became quite sought out, at least in the Lagos market anyway. And I think I was in secondary school. I think I must have been in late secondary school, my senior secondary school, the first time I heard the expression, the headhunter, because she said she was going to have a meeting with a headhunter. And I was like, headhunter? Who's that? What is that? And so she explained the concept to me about how you have organizations, human resource organizations, that go around looking for talent and try to match them up with companies. And yeah, so she explained to me basically that she had paid her dues, and the stage that she was at in her career, that is how she found the jobs that she moved on to. So really, by the time I was in secondary school, my mother had stopped being part of the traditional application process of sending your CV and stuff like that. So essentially, headhunters would reach out to her, every other year or so, I'm like, hey, Mrs. Aide, there's this company, this is the opportunity. Are you interested? Should we set up a meet? This is what the job role is. This is what my commission is. This is what you'll be expected to do. All those type of conversations. So it's something that I've seen done firsthand, and so this is not motivational BS. It can happen, and if you happen to be in the situation where my mom was back in the day, alone, 5 kids, and definitely in need of a new job and some off money, these actually are skills that you do need, and I keep repeating this time and time again so that people don't get it twisted. I'm not advocating for the breakdown of the family and for breakdown of family values. I'm just acknowledging the harsh reality of the society and the times that we're in, that there are times when a woman is found without the traditional support system of spouse and family, and these are some of the things that you have to do to get by. Although it is my prayer that none of us listening to this podcast, whether a man or a woman, will have to be in the situation where you're having to rough things alone without spouse or family because of inadequacies of our personal situation. Because it's easy for no one, whether you're a man or a woman, but women are in a particularly precarious situation because often when these things happen, you are left with the kids. Well, I guess I should say whoever it is that is alone with the kids in this situation is in a precarious situation. But anyway, I'm going beyond the scope of the podcast. The bottom line is, you're looking for some FF money or you're looking for new job opportunities. These are the avenues that are open to you from a traditional sales perspective. So prospecting, go out there, do your research. LinkedIn is not a bad way to start. Because apart from looking at the website, let's say you're interested in working at Access Bank, apart from looking at Access Bank and checking out the careers option on the career page, you can actually look at LinkedIn. You'll find lots of people there. They'll have it in their profiles that they work at Access Bank. This is the job role, whatever. Sound out a couple of messages, begin the conversations around needs and values of the organization, match it with yours, what your own personal goals are. Eventually, you're going to be able to work yourself into a situation where you can have those conversations about aligning value. These are my goals, these are my personal goals, and this is how it aligns with the conversation goals. And securing this presentation can be done the traditional way by submitting your CV, although I suspect I would recommend that you go the networking route. But the goal eventually is to become so good at these things and achieve thought leadership in your industry so that eventually you don't have to start running around looking for places, and you have some security because people are looking for you. And you might be one of those lucky few who, despite the fact that things didn't quite go well for you from the start, eventually you're able to pay for your kids travel, education, leisure, and even put aside some money for your retirement benefits. So I think after this we'll have one more episode where we will go over FF fund issues, and then we have loads of other exciting stuff that we can talk about over here on the podcast. So thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based sales consultant and event media professional, Tavishima Ayede. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording. And if you find stuff here really valuable, do not forget to share. Do not forget to subscribe, and do not forget to talk about the podcast with other people that you know and that you hang around with, so that this gospel that we keep preaching here on the podcast about how we can advance our businesses and our careers or side hustles using the principles of traditional sales and personal sellings, so that we can advance the gospel, pretty much, because this is something that everybody needs to know. So thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.